feared and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the PTBNL, the podcast to be named later for the Always Next Year podcast network. I am hosting this one tonight. My name is Shane, and I am joined with 4 additional co-hosts tonight. I have Scott, who we're all going to yell at various points of this pod. So, Scott, how are you now? And then I'll check in midway how you're still doing.
I'm all right, but I'm filling with rage to get fueled for this debate. So, bring it on.
Solid. Then we have Andrew, who has actually given us an additional bracket. And we're going to change the way that we've been doing these brackets now. And I'm excited about that. So, and I'm excited for the later part of that show as well. So, Andrew, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Surviving another day, but ready to get out of this quarantine.
I was like mildly upbeat compared to how you've been, man. So I'm glad to hear you're doing slightly better.
Today was a real struggle. It just got to the point today where like I looked at the clock and like it felt like the day like was almost over because it felt like such a long day. And I looked at the clock and it wasn't even 12 o'clock yet.
That's brutal. I just keep waiting for 7:05 and it never hits. So it just every day it just skips over that time. It's insanely depressing. Then I have Sean on. Sean, how are you, man?
Pretty good. Ready to talk about baseball. And yeah, me too. I'm waiting until 7:05 every day for nothing. So
right. It's not fun. And then the laugh that you keep hearing, the small chuckle over there, that is Joey Biscuits, Berardi. You owe us a story, so I'm not even going to ask how you are. Joe said bet, and I hate that. So start us off, kid. What is your embarrassing story?
I didn't really think of one, so I'm just going to go with the first one that popped to mind.
Was it using the phrase bet?
It was not, because it's really not that big of a deal, you millennial slang hater. But this one time, I was at a birthday party, and we were like on a slipping slide, and I went down the slipping slide, and I farted, and everyone called me Shardy Berardi.
That's actually horrifying, and you're also calling it a slipping slide?
Slip like and slide.
Okay.
My apologies.
Sure. That's okay. Shane. I'm just correcting you all around tonight, man. But Shardy Berardi, God, you are the victim of some tough nicknames, man.
I'm have glad some that mean stories from my childhood. Next time I need to tell an embarrassing one. Ask about the hoagie story.
Hoagie story. Writing it down right now on top of the bracket. Hoagie story. I'm sure give it 15 minutes. You'll say something else dumb. Hoagie story. Berardi.
I'm doing well, by the way, everyone.
Good, man. I'm glad. All right. So tonight we are, for the most part, we are going to talk on baseball's supposed plan of potentially being able to begin playing baseball come May and all the stipulations that are coming behind it. I don't believe this is going to happen. I don't think this is a realistic possibility whatsoever. But it is furthering this debate and furthering some of the things that we talked about over the last couple weeks and couple shows here and what baseball could do, what we would like to see done. Some of the things, if you haven't heard, and I believe this is, and Andrew, you'll probably know the date better than me. This is like 3 days ago when this stuff all came out, like legitimately.
Yeah, I think it was on Tuesday, or late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. I think Jeff Passan released his article.
Yeah, it was Passan. All right, so some of the things that were mentioned in this article in ways that they were going to attempt to try to kind of keep things safe was implementing an electronic strike zone as to protect the umpire who would be right next to the catcher. So we're not putting hitters in the boxes either at this point, which is good because we want to keep things safe. No mound visits from the catcher to the pitcher or pitching coach for that matter. He's going to be in section 432. 7-inning doubleheaders, which is something that we've talked about on this show before. This is something that minor league baseball does with their doubleheaders. And if you're determined to get the maximum amount of games in to make this schedule work, it's doable. However, if the long-term health for all your players is there, I think it's kind of moronic to force all these guys to play that many games in that short of a span of time, even if it is just 7 innings. This one I actually love, and so we can talk about this in a bit too, but the use of on-field microphones by the players as bonus content for TV viewers. I feel like we're never fully, like, baseball's so far behind on everything, and one of the cool things about the All-Star game is you do get to sit there and have field mics with some of these guys. I don't know how realistic it is in a real game scenario versus just an all-star game that it ultimately doesn't mean anything anymore. But it's still something that would be entertaining for the fans. And then, as we mentioned, players sitting in the stands 6 feet away from each other with obviously no fans in the ballpark. So there's a lot to unpack in this article. There's significantly more things, but those were kind of the highlights of the proposed kind of stipulations. But the big one, and the one that I want to start off with, is players would all be shipped to Arizona, where they have like 8 to 10 ballparks, and they would be in quarantine for the duration of this season, or at least until, I mean, a cure for this thing comes out. I'm blanking on the word, the vaccination. There we go. And that's not close. Like, those things aren't close. So these guys would have to be away from their families. Wheeler's come out and said he's got a pregnant wife. This is something he would not be in favor of. Other players just want to play, and they're like, I'll do whatever. So let's start with that one. I'm going to start with you, Sean. So we talked about it a podcast or two ago about the possibility of neutral site locations, putting everyone there, and it almost being like an AAU tournament, like how we've all played growing up. That is basically the proposed thing now. However, they would not be able to see their family. Do you see this as some sort of a realistic possibility, or something that the players union would agree to do?
No, I don't see it as realistic. For most of the topics, I'm kind of split. Like, some of them I'm all for, like you said, and some of them I'm completely against. And one of them is that the players don't see their families. That's like one of the biggest things, like having them come back to their family after a game. It's big for the players. And I completely side with Zach Wheeler and what he said there. You can't keep them away from their families. As much as I would love to, have them sacrifice so that we can watch baseball, it's not realistic.
I 100% agree. I like these guys. They're not 18 years old going away to college right now. It's so different. These guys have families. They have lives. To me, it doesn't work. Andrew, how about you? Where you kind of sit on this right now? And by the way, guys, jump in if you disagree with anything says. Like, this is supposed to be a debate at this point, and we're all going to jump in on some of Scott's later points, so we might as well allow Scott to jump in on some of these ones as well.
I'm just sitting on the sideline right now, just waiting for everyone else's points to get out, like, just chomping at the bit here. So I'll let you guys speak for a little bit.
God, it'll light you up. Perfect. Go ahead, Andrew.
All right, so on this one, I don't think it should be done, just because if you look at the players, you can't ask them to be away from their families for that long. And I mean, like Zach Wheeler said, and this is something my dad said right when I was reading him this proposal. It was like the first thing that came out of his mouth from my dad was that, what are you going to do with a player, like, if they're expecting a kid throughout the season? Because then you're not letting these guys anywhere away from the team. So you're basically saying either play the season and miss your kid get born, or be with your family, be with the kid to get born, and miss the entire season. So it's basically the players got to pick, and obviously they are going to want to do both because they don't want to miss out on the money situation too. So, I mean, I don't think it's a smart move by the MLB on this, especially with this rule, because you're going to keep these players down there in Arizona, let alone, I mean, your mindset is it's still going to have to be the 6 feet social distancing stuff, but you're asking probably over 900 people to all just move down to Arizona and get Phil into these stadiums. If you count the players on each team and then the media as well, it's going to have to be there. You're looking at close to 1,000 people all going down into one state. And something else I heard, I forget which podcast I was listening to. It might have been on The Fanatic or something. But you're asking these guys to go into Arizona, which is one of the highest states that have retirement, that people's parents go down along with. Besides Florida, Arizona is another hot destination for retirement, and you're asking all these guys to go down into a state where it's risking it with some of the older people there, which is one of the worst things for this disease to hit older people.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Not the one that I thought you were going to make there. I honestly thought that you were going to talk about the fact that with the social distancing and how hot, dry heat, whatever, but how hot it is over there, and these guys would not be in dugouts with fans or anything. They'd be scattered out just in the sun beating on them all day. Like that's just unhealthy as well. But you went a different route, and that just furthers the argument that says don't fucking play baseball right now. Like you just what do you do? You bring, like you said, Andrew, 1,000 people down here, right? And and it's going to be more because you're going to need training staffs. You're going to need so much down there to be able to function at the level that you would need to function. And it's for every organization in baseball, and then every media outlet in baseball. And what do you do when one person gets it? Do you just shut things down for 14 days again and just keep playing things by ear? Like it's so unrealistic at this point, which is again why I felt like baseball is just incredibly inappropriate with their line of thinking at this point. Scott, where are you at with it, man?
Okay, so one of the things I do want to preface this with is, you can't force anyone to do anything, right? This is everyone is voluntarily, working for the MLB and playing baseball. So if someone would choose to not play, and even if this all does come to fruition, which I really don't think it will, even though I am in favor of it, that's their choice, and they would have the option to not play and be with their family, and you would have to respect that. The main reason that I'm in favor of this now is because, so what a quarantine is, right, is separating yourself from everyone around you. So if you're quarantining these 900 people together, there would be a 2-week period, which is about the gestation period of the virus, or incubation period, not gestation. And once it's been 2 weeks, everyone is tested and confirmed to either have it or not have it, then everyone in that, area is kind of deemed safe. There's still a small risk. There always will be. However, but to me, once those people are there, they're safe. So some of the crazy stuff, like everyone sitting 6 feet apart in the stands, is basically just going to be done for TV purposes at that point and the visibility of it all, to make it seem like they're staying apart from each other to remain safe, when in reality, it's proven that they don't have the virus. There's no way for the virus to get into them. Then it's kind of not necessary at that point. Now, I'm not saying they should be dapping each other up and, sharing dip cups together, but they could sit next to each other and, expect to be okay. And this is where I'm going to have you cue up the Battle Hymn of the Republic in the background, because this next couple minutes here I'm going to talk about is for America.
You are such an idiot.
So think about a movie that I'm sure everyone has seen. Great movie, A League of Their Own, right? It's about women playing baseball during World War II, I believe. So the women play baseball for a sense of normalcy, right? Like whether they really wanted to or not, they got out there, and it was as much for the country and the world and everyone around them as it was for themselves. At this point, the Major League Baseball players are being given an opportunity that's like, look, there you go. Thank you, Shane. So everyone stand
Who's
up
to
and
know that
salute
that's
real
me
quick.
doing this?
Whoever it is, you're a real patriot, and everyone else sucks. So they're all given an opportunity right now to give the American people just a small break from what's going on, because a lot of them are probably separated from their families as well, and something like a 7-inning baseball game on every day would just bring some normalcy to everyone's life. Yeah, and heck, it'd be 2 7-inning baseball games a day. So you'd have a little bit of a break from what's going on, and we could all really use that. Is it a big sacrifice to not see your family for 4 months? Of course, but we send soldiers over to war for longer spans than that, and they get paid far less and are appreciated far less than our athletes. So to say that it wouldn't be an enormous sacrifice for these guys who are paid millions and millions of dollars isn't fair. However, if they're willing to do it and willing to help the rest of the country out, then I say we let them do it. And we take as many safety precautions as we can, and we all appreciate it. We get the viewing numbers up, And we enjoy the hell out of Bryce Harper talking on the mic the entire game because it would be just electric content.
He just had a kid.
He could not go if he doesn't want to. It's up to him.
So that's another thing. Go ahead, man.
And that's one thing I have is if a player doesn't want to go and they say not to go, that's not going to save them the fact that they're going to get. I mean, let's take Philadelphia for example. If Bryce Harper says he's not going to go, the backlash he's going to get from the city is going to be pretty outstanding, and that's something every player is going to have to be ready to go for. I mean, we see with Twitter and all the different social medias when some fans disagree with players, they get death threats like crazy, and I can't even imagine if say Bryce Harper and JT decide not to go, and you're missing two of your best players. The backlash they're going to get from the fans is going to be crazy. Number one, and two, to your point about the 14 days when they first get there, yeah, that's true, but they still got to find places to eat and everything. So if they go out to a restaurant or something, who knows if that waiter or waitress has it?
Oh, you know that they're going to bring food, like chefs over.
That's true too. I didn't think of that much, but I'm just thinking like the chances of them actually like even that they're gonna have to go in whoever they stay with in the hotel room. I mean, I don't know, just a lot of different people they're still gonna interact with, even though everyone might be tested for it. But
in theory, like Scott's not wrong. It would be if you nuzzled out a hole in this country right now and you dropped a couple baseball stadiums in there and you shipped over 1,000 people and nobody else was allowed in or out, you're looking at the safest place in the country, like the most controlled environment. And if people wanted to go to that controlled environment, sure, like at a certain point you'd have to let them, and you would just like a sport or something has to come out and say, we're ready to test this thing. We're ready to give this a go. I just don't think that right now is the most like I would just start sports with the NFL season like that. I would just like, I would not feel comfortable playing a partial baseball season or a sprint to the cup, as awesome as that would be for the Flyers and for hockey. NBA, this is the most refreshing thing I've ever done in my entire existence. That Sixers team pissed me off so damn much, but but even that, like there are diehards and there are team or significantly more structured basketball organizations and cities out there that think very opposite of that, who would very much so want their teams back out there on the court. And it does only take one of these organizations to say we're going to give it a go. I just don't think that this is the appropriate one to do, because then what do you do with minor league baseball players? Do they just like, if an injury happens, you have no one else to come up. If guys don't want to come over and play, now you're forcing a smaller roster to play more and to play more frequently. There's so many implications to this. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I just want to bring something up. In the Passan article, there was a quote, and I actually wrote it down. The plan, which obviously we've talked about for quite some time now, that plan does have support from high-ranking public officials or public health officials, who believe the league can safely operate in this format. However, I don't believe that, because if it can be safely operated, why would you want to have an electronic strike zone and not umpires? Why would you want to have people still, sitting in stands and not in dugouts? I just think it isn't safe. And if you're still trying to implement these social distance rules, they still shouldn't be playing. Plus, even if you do isolate all of these people, it's such a broad amount of people. You start off so macro with just players, but then you have managers, coaches, training staff, media, personnel, and then think about they got to stay somewhere when they're in Arizona. So what about hotel staff? You're going to have to quarantine them too. If they're going out and about and they're still bringing in, potentially bringing in the disease into the hotels, you're going to have to quarantine them. And what if they don't want to do that?
Yeah, so, I mean, you have to. I agree with that. There are a lot of staff and different people involved, but everyone involved would have to be in agreement theoretically that they're not going anywhere for 4 months. So it would not only just be asking, Bryce Harper to stay away from his young child for 4 months. You'd also be asking the bellhop at the hotel or the the cooking staff there, like,
Sure.
sorry, like, you guys are staying here too. Like, do you agree to do it? And if you don't want to, like, we completely understand. That's the only way to safely do it. It's a hugely risky endeavor. I mean, that's the one thing, like, as much as I'm joking a little bit about this, and we're all having fun now, like, this is a very serious public health thing. And, like, if someone doesn't want to be involved in it, like, to Andrew's point before, there's always crazies out there in social media that are going to just send death threats and say horrible things. Those people are the scum of the earth, right? Like, they're just always going to be there. And, if we could get rid of them all, we would be better off for it. But, you just got to let them talk a little bit. And, hopefully they keep, Shane, I might use a millennial word here, but it also might just be an Ebonics term. Keep that booty chatter out of the.
I'm a fan of booty. You can say whatever you want.
All right, there you go. So keep that booty chatter out of,
that sounded bad the second
time. Yeah, but yeah, it's an extremely risky thing. And, you get in a car every day, right? There's a chance you die. Like, there is a chance people pick up the disease, and there is a chance this all is a huge disaster. But if we have the brightest minds in science, giving it their sign of approval, then it's the best that we could do for it. So.
Yeah. I also, did you want to jump in, Shane?
No, go for it.
I also want to say, just to counter your point, Andrew, I honestly, like, if Bryce Harper chose not to go, or let's say Zach Wheeler doesn't want to play this season because he'd rather spend the time with his wife and their newborn baby, I don't think the backlash would be as severe as you guys might think it is, especially with, fans like us. Like, I'm sure there's always going to be people who make comments, but, like, it's such an unprecedented situation. You really can't force anyone to do this, in a sense. Like, if they want to sit the season out, it's their choice. Obviously it's a big commitment. And people, especially, a newborn kid on their way, people just might not be willing to do that. So I don't think it's going to be as severe as a backlash as one might think. Like, obviously, if it was a typical season and someone was like, yeah, I'm just going to sit it out and not play, obviously there would be much more ground for an uproar. But with this going on and really no timetable for this to end, I think it's really hard for people to kind of judge someone for making a call like that when they really don't know how this is going to shake out for another handful of months.
I agree with you. The only reason why I think otherwise is just because when we see like a guy sit out 1 or 2 games in a 162 game season, if it's like a bigger game, people still get on him for that. So if a guy's going to sit out an entire season, that's the only reason why I think they'd still get a lot of backlash for it. And again, I'm not one of those people that would backlash for it, and I don't think any of us on here are. But of course, there's going to be those people that are sitting behind a screen and feel they can say whatever they want. So I just think there's a good amount of people out there that will be like that.
Yeah, I think we actually saw something like that happen in the MMA world earlier today. I'm not sure if any of you guys know who Rose Namajunas is. She's a woman's 115-pound fighter, complete badass, but has been very vocal about mental health issues and anxiety she suffers. She's had 2 corona-related deaths in her family already, and she was scheduled to fight in UFC 249, which was supposed to happen on April 18th. It's been canceled today, but she dropped out and said, I just don't feel safe doing this. Please respect my privacy, and me and my family are grieving here. And there was all kinds of scum just calling her a mental midget, calling her just every name in the book, and the backlash is just always going to be there. And your heart goes out to someone like that, right? She lost family members, and she's scared for her life and, grieving, and is making a decision that hurts her pocket quite a bit. I mean, if she doesn't fight, she doesn't get paid. So it's a really big decision for her, and people were still just giving it to her over the internet. And it was horrible to see.
Yeah, I think when you put anything, it's always going to be an emotional thing. I feel like, just take Philadelphia for example, because there are going to be people, if our biggest free agent signing of the previous current offseason in Zach Wheeler and the face of baseball both decided, look, we got to be with our families right now. We're not going to participate. If the Phillies started out in a shortened season 15-2, no one's giving a shit. But if they started out 2-15, that's when emotionally all these people are like, they have to put that anger somewhere. And that's where those, and Andrew, you said it perfectly, these people that just sit behind a screen and think that they can say something because, well, they're safe behind their screen. That's when those people are going to come out, and that's never going to go away because people are, innately awful. Like, it's just, that's that emotional aspect of those things. Logically, I don't think very many people would sit there and say the same thing if they were speaking, again, strictly logically and not emotionally. But when you begin to tie the emotions of, look, needing something back, and in Scott's story, in the MMA world, like that is, most fighters aren't growing up privileged humans in like these just excellent, high dollar families. Like, these are people who have fought their entire lives. So the people who follow and support them are also people oftentimes who have fought their entire lives. And when they see someone choosing to not fight, they feel negatively emotionally about that. And it would be the same thing in baseball, and it would be the same thing in basketball, hockey, football, whatever it may be. So I get all of that. Sean, you had dropped off there for a bit, but glad that you're back on now. What is your kind of take on all of this stuff?
Well, I was actually going to jump in and say I had a counterpoint to what you were saying. If the season comes back, in like late August or something, and the Phillies start out 2-15, they're going to have the same reaction as if Bryce Harper's there or not. I actually think that, the reaction would be better, obviously, if Bryce wasn't there. I think people are going to be so happy to see sports at all. And I guess I'm kind of taking Scott's point of view on this. If everybody on the Phillies except Bryce Harper and Zach Wheeler showed up in Arizona to play games, I think we would all just be so happy to still be watching most of our Phillies play that nobody would really come at them, especially if they say they're doing it for their family. And I mean, I get that there's still going to be those people, but I feel like most people have enough common sense to say, it's not worth, you side with the player there. You say, yeah, we're paying them a lot of money, but at the same time, they have to look out for their families. And I think playing devil's advocate here, it also gives the younger guys a chance to play. And I'm all about that. I love seeing, it sucked last year when Kutch went down, but getting to see Adam Hazley make his major league debut was it was some kind of compensation for it. That's at least how I look at it.
I am all in on young guys getting the opportunity to play. However, nowhere in that Passan article, or at least nothing that I recall reading, has these minor leaguers in a position to be playing baseball, which is crazy. You can't ship 3-4 levels of baseball all to Arizona and shut the state down and flood, have everyone fucking leave. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So
I'm saying in the sense that they would be playing in the spot of Bryce. If Bryce doesn't say if Bryce says he doesn't want to show up, all of a sudden we have a room for another outfielder. Kyle Garlick ends up.
So just from day one, I get you.
Yeah.
I have a question. Did Bryce Harper make a statement on the proposed plan? I know Zach Wheeler did, but did Bryce have anything to say?
I don't believe that he has yet. Bryce is, and I mean, you guys can argue if you think different. He is far quieter and more reserved than I ever anticipated him. I had always felt like he got a bad rap because of who he was and how he grew up, on the cover of magazines at age 16 and the next phenom, and and he comes in and he's 19 and he acts like a fucking 19-year-old kid, and he looks like a 19-year-old kid, and he behaves like one, he talks like one, and I felt like somewhere in that maturation process, like he still has the edge while he plays, but the human being, I just feel he's just like such a quiet, humble dude.
He was on Instagram Live last night playing Fortnite. I don't know if you guys saw that, but
was he really?
He was answering fan questions. Yeah. He had the blue blockers on, the clear lenses or clear frames.
Clear frames.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very
looking good as always.
Shane, you would have
Handsome
made him
guy.
tell an embarrassing story. That's for sure.
Well, he is very much so. He's ridiculous. But he gets away with it because he's Bryce Harper. There's certain people do. Biscuits, you're not that guy. I'm not that guy. Scott's probably the closest to that guy that can. Like, Scott's a good looking dude. Like, it just works. But you could probably
Bryce,
do what you want. You and the neck beard over there.
Oh, dude, my neck beard is looking stronger than ever right now. You have no idea.
Oh, man. Side story, and this won't make sense for any of you except for Scott. But Scott, did you know our family is doing like a virtual Thanksgiving? Not Thanksgiving. What's the holiday that's coming up?
Easter.
Easter?
Did you know that that's happening?
No, so I was laughing the other day. Mind you, I'm 3 hours behind everyone.
Sure.
So I was working, it was 3 o'clock, and my brother texted me and just said like, "Hey, like, family happy hour in like
Right.
5 minutes on Zoom. Sorry, like, we forgot you're not on this giant family group chat that everyone
Nor
has."
am I.
And I was like, "What the fuck? Why does this exist? And why am I not on it?" And number two, why did it take until a national pandemic for, this to come out? And also I was like, I have to work. I can't be on it. And they were like, all right, well, I guess you just don't love the family then. And I was like,
Well, neither did I.
okay.
So I also am not part of the chat. Stephanie is. But my whole thing is, so I was not invited to this thing, and nor were you, apparently.
Nope, I didn't even know about it.
Right? Okay, so here's the thing. You and your neckbeard have to show up on this Zoom thing. I'm just going to go with a mustache.
There you go.
It's just as fucked up as we can look. Like, if we got to be on this thing, we're going to crash it, and we're going to do it right.
There you go.
But anyway, back to the baseball talk. Sorry, thank you all for indulging for the quick minute of life in the O'Connors. Ridiculous Irish Catholic family, but good people, if any of them listen. Which, shit, if they do listen, they're going to know that you have a neckbeard, Scott. That's strange. But
I've been talking a lot about it lately, so they're
good for
probably
you.
aware.
All right. Good for you, man. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the gameplay kind of stipulations that were put out in Paston's article before we get to one more point on this topic that I want to get to in a bit. But all these health precautions, and Scott, I do think you said it appropriately at the front end of this. Like, this theoretically, if done properly, would be the safest environment for a lot of these players to be in, most controlled environment anyway. So a lot of it would be specifically for viewers to sit there and say, all right, look, they're taking all the necessary precautions. We joked in our chat that, you'd be calling players in from, random sections instead of the bullpen. But why put this article out that says umpires won't be there? We're going to have an electronic strike zone. Well, that seems like, and I don't remember which one of you guys said it in the chat, but that seems like you're pushing something you'd like to try anyway. That's not great. Like that to me is fucked. Don't just use this pandemic as the reason that you're doing that, because JT Realmuto and every other catcher in baseball is still going to have to share the $3 or the same $3 set there at home plate with a hitter. Like, you're still putting two people in contact with each other. And are you going to not have runners hold each other on? Are there no longer tag plays? Like, when does it stop? If a ball is hit to a particular spot on the field, are two guys no longer crashing towards that? Are they just saying, look, this is your side of the field, you got to get it? Like, where do you draw this line, and how much impact does it have to this game? Do you guys find any of what they're talking about realistic in terms of how they may change the game?
No, I think it's honestly, I think it's the direction they want to go in the sense of the electronic strike zone. They've been trying to limit the mound visits. I think they've been going down one the last 2 seasons. I think they're down to 4 or 5 now. So I think it's honestly them just trying to take advantage of the situation. I think it's just a selfish way of them to try to bring in these rules that they know people have been against for the last couple of years, and it's their way of trying to bring it in. And along with, they don't want to lose the money, so I get it, it's a marketing strategy, but they're going to try to, they got to get the certain amount of games in to get the TV money. So they're going to be selfish in that sense to try to get back on TV as fast as possible. And I think that's
the NBA was only 8 games shy. Like, in almost every single team. That's wild.
And that's the thing, is like these leagues, and same with the NHL, with how close they probably all are to these deals, they're all going to try to get those extra regular season games in before the playoffs, just so they can get that TV money. Which, in that sense, I think it'd be better to start just to get guys back a couple games to shake off rust before playoffs. But we'll see if that even happens. But that's my thing. I think it's just a whole. I don't think it's realistic, and I think that's the best word for me to use in the sense is it's just the MLB being a little selfish there and trying to implement stuff that they want that not necessarily a lot of fans want.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to slip in the rules that they've been debating for a while to speed up the game. It's like they're saying, oh yeah, we're going to do this for the virus, and then we're also going to do this like electronic strike zones because they've wanted it for so long. We're also going to do this, no mound visits, like we're saying we're doing it to stop the spread of the virus, but if the coach has it, the players are going to have it. So it's like they're just trying to speed the game up and say, yeah, we're trying to get as many games as possible. You're entirely right. The MLB's trying to be selfish here.
And I would respect them so much more if they came out and said that. If they said, listen, like we've heard the debate on both sides. We know that most fans are against the things that we're about to implement right now, or most traditional, fans who have been fan of the game for their entire lives. But at this point, with what has occurred with this virus, this is an additional layer of security, and this is something we believe in going forward. And we're going to take that step, and we're going to take that direction. I'd respect that more. I'd fucking hate them, but I would respect it more than sitting there slipping it in saying that we're protecting this 6 feet of social distancing, which is ridiculous.
Yes.
When you take a look at the remainder of this game and the way that it's played and all of the other times that, guys are like, do you not take leads anymore? Do you not steal bases? Like, when does it stop? You can't just pick and choose what works for your social distancing agenda and the way that you're looking to be perceived by media nationally and globally, for that matter. You can't just pick and choose that stuff. And that's what really fucking irritates me. That was incredibly irresponsible of this proposal, or the latest proposal. And again, we don't know how accurate all of these things were, but Passan's pretty fucking good. It's like 3 guys you can trust nationally in baseball. He's one of them. So that most of that, if not all of it's pretty legitimately accurate in terms of what that proposal looked like, but it's still ridiculous to me.
Yeah, Passan's the guy I trusted for the offseason when I turned on somebody's notifications for like signings and stuff. Last year was Heyman, and I drove myself crazy. So this year I learned that.
Dude, you made the right decision.
I did. Passan
Heyman is literally just a mouthpiece.
Yeah,
he is, but it worked.
Well, it just the month of Bryce Harper tweets over and over and over again, oh, he's interested in San Francisco, over and over. It was like, it started to drive me a little insane, but
I stuck with it the whole
that.
time.
Oh,
I
did
way too confident. I was like, just apply fucking logic. He's not. Why would he go to San Francisco? Why? Why would he do this? Just
the worst was I spent all that time getting the notifications and looking at my phone, getting excited, thinking this was the Bryce Harper news, and then I fell asleep for a nap for when Bryce signed. I woke up like an hour after the news broke.
Oh, that's amazing. That's actually super sad. I'm sorry, man. So I'm trying to remember. It was like a week or so before the signing actually happened. But do you guys remember when the set of MLB Tonight had a picture, like had the background art piece or whatever up, the digital piece up for their studio of like, hey, Bryce signed in Philadelphia, just because they were preparing. Like they have one for every team. But that was the picture that was on Instagram, and people were like, holy shit, it's happening. I lost my damn mind at work. I was so happy. I was giving free shit away. I didn't give a damn. And then it didn't happen. And I was like, well, fuck me, man. But yeah, that was a crazy ride. But anyone who stuck with Heyman throughout that, it was a payoff nice at the end. And it was hilarious.
Didn't Heyman break it? Didn't Heyman break
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's why the payoff.
It was his reward.
It was, man. He just, God, he just
Scott
controlled.
Boras was like, you get to leak this.
Yeah, basically.
I was giving a tour. I was actually out on tour, and I walked back into my office, and everyone was like, Joe? And I'm like, no fucking way. Stop fucking with me. No fucking way. And they were like, John Heyman from his word, like his mouth. And I'm like, you're fucking high. You're fucking with me. Like, and then I think I literally like jumped up and I ran around the entire admissions office at Cabrini and just high-fived everyone.
Yes. Yes. So we shouldn't promote other shows on here, but I'm going to do it anyway. The first 4 to 6 minutes of High Hopes after they re-recorded when it actually happened is some of the best podcasting I've ever heard in my life.
I've listened to that podcast about 7 or 8 times.
Me too.
I'm not gonna lie.
Like I listened to it on the anniversary twice, like on repeat. Like it just got to the end and I just hit play again. Like it was just because it's true. Like there's something about Seltzer, man. Like Jack's good too, and Jack's a funny guy and everything, but like Seltzer's just like Charlie Day-ish voice just works.
He's got a nice voice. He's got a
He's
good
got a
podcast.
terrible voice.
Well, it's like it
amazing.
works.
It does.
But
work.
it's recognizable is what it is. None of us have
Right.
recognizable voices at this point. All right, so I want to take it back real quick and get us back on track to something Scott had mentioned earlier. So damn you, Scott, for stealing this argument or beginnings of it. But Scott, you had mentioned the movie and this period of baseball history in the League of Their Own. Now, we've talked about it a bit. You know, all of these different players that maybe wouldn't be so inclined and they would stay with their families and they would not be quarantined and they'd reject that offer. But then there's a ton of baseball players that probably would. The union would never go for it. But how interested would you be in having essentially a fantasy draft of like a College World Series-esque tournament? You get your super regional, you get all of those things in there. Say you only have enough to field 16 teams. Say you only have enough to field 12 teams, whatever. Every team, you know, perennial all-stars get to be a captain. They draft their fucking team. And then for 35 games, we get a tournament of teams that would otherwise ordinarily never be formed. How awesome would that be? I know this would never happen. It's impossible. The players' union would never go for it. No one's ever putting their body at risk for no fucking reason. But in terms of like, hey, we need sports. The world needs something. Would you guys entertain something like that? And if you were a player, would you entertain something like this? I'll start with you, Scott, since you initially brought it up.
So the businessman in me hears this and goes, if I own a baseball team, which I'm never going to do, but let's talk hypotheticals here, then I'm going to be pissed off if Bryce Harper is drafting just a shitty team behind him. But that would also just be like an awesome like conversation to see, like, you know, the owners all just like flipping out at him for being a shitty drafter, even though he's an outfielder, not a management guy. I would love to see it. I'm thinking of Backyard Baseball, you know, and like that video game we all.
That's what I'm talking about. Pablo's the king.
It would be amazing, and I would love it. And I actually think the players would be in support. It'd be similar to the NBA All-Star game. It'd be really fun.
Kind of what I'm thinking.
And it would be great if there was a way they could work that out. I'd be so for it. It'd be awesome.
I don't think it would be the players' union that would have a problem. I think the owners would, because if you're picking these teams, it's the players that you paid for as an owner that are not playing for the team that you paid them to play for. I think that's where you get the conflict. It's not so much the players' union. I think the players' union would be more okay with it than anything. And I think most of the players would agree too. I think they would want to be able to play baseball, televised or not. Like,
I think it'd be pretty tough if you're Mookie Betts on like the last year of a contract, and say you slide in head first at home plate and wreck your shoulder or something. Like, that's a tough sell for a guy like that. Now, again, he wouldn't have to participate. Right,
but I think I think he's itching to get out there and play. And I think this, if that were to be the case, if this were to actually happen, which, I mean, obviously it wouldn't, but if it were, I think most of the players wouldn't. I mean, they would care if they got injured, but I think it would be like they'd be willing to risk it because they just want to get out there and play. And as long as they don't have a family that, you know, they're not willing to sacrifice the time away from them, then if it was me, I'd be all for it.
As a guy who just wants to play and just wants to see baseball, like, I would lean towards that as well. But there would be some legitimate concern every time I stepped on the field. Like, I feel we talked about backlash earlier in this show, you know, of choosing to not play. Can you imagine the backlash that you would receive if you went, played, and you ended up blowing out your elbow and you have to miss 2 years, you know, year and a half? You know, you imagine coming back to Philadelphia and the backlash that you would get here in a city like this, or, I mean, really anywhere, but just like, oh, you chose to go play there when, you know, and again, I don't know if it was Sean or Andrew who mentioned it, you know, but an owner who has paid your contract to be a member of the Philadelphia Phillies or the Los Angeles Dodgers. I just don't think it would sit well with anyone. Replacement players would be hilarious, and I would watch just because I do think it would be fun. But it wouldn't carry the same. It wouldn't carry the same cachet as what everything. If a Bryce Harper showed up, if a Mookie Betts showed up, you know. So, but it would be something interesting.
I would say one counter to that. I know a guy like JT or Mookie Betts, yeah, they might not want to risk the injuries, but the counter to that is a guy like, let's take Didi Gregorius, for example. Someone who's on a prove me deal, he wants the more money. It might be more beneficial for him to go out there and go out and play because, yeah, it might not be your normal typical team versus team, but they're still going up against those same guys. So if he goes out and has a tremendous, whatever amount of games it would be, in that sense, it still shows that he has more talent than what kind of deal he's on now. So I think, yeah, I think some guys might see it as bad, but other guys who are on one year deals, even a guy like Betts who is going to want more money than what he's getting now, I mean, it might be beneficial for them to still go out and put up numbers and show what they're actually worth.
That's very true in the case of Didi and guys like that, guys who are betting on themselves. But it is still terrifying. Like, I think I would rather be in a more controlled setting versus an uncontrolled one or a lesser controlled one. But it is a good point, though, of some of those guys. I want to get back to Scott real quick because Scott had mentioned in the text how he would be cool with baseball going to 7 innings all the time, if I remember correctly.
Not necessarily, but sure, I'll go with it.
Oh, you're an ass. Why don't we just do it this way? You had said something that you had kind of a larger argument, and I'm sure we hit a lot of it already, but if there was anything that we haven't hit as to why we're all going to hate you for a little bit, if you could just spew all that out, we're just going to kind of give you the floor for a second, and then we're going to, promptly rip into you.
Well, my main argument was bringing up the Patriot thing, so that if you guys, it just would give you the option to either agree with me or just hate America. So I feel like I've done that to a pretty good extent. So, I mean, if you disagree with me and you hate America, that's fine. You guys can go somewhere else.
God.
But the 7 inning games thing, I mean, everyone grew up playing 6 innings in Little League and 7 innings in high school, and so we're all accustomed to it, and it would speed up the game quite a bit. It does drop a little bit in the advertising dollars, and it would give them the opportunity to keep this 162 game schedule or even extend it a little bit and get through things. It would be just ridiculous because it would ruin every record in all of baseball. So it would present like a huge problem. And also, as I'm kind of vocalizing this now a little bit, I think aside from the fact that, umpires will go away and we go to electronic strike zones with this new plan, which is ridiculous to me. If that ever happens with baseball, I'm going to be furious about it, and that's stupid. Same. But, if something like this were to happen, right, and say they play 162 games and it's going to have the best viewership numbers ever for baseball because everyone's stuck at home and they're all watching it. And then if somehow the MLB takes this as an opportunity to change the game of baseball forever based off of those numbers, that's going to be a real tragedy here. I think that's one of the biggest risks you would have, is because it's hard to, number one, if all the money is there for all the owners in the league, they're just going to go with these changes and not really give everyone a full fair chance to refute them and go back to the way things were. So I know things in the world right now, like, it's very hard to imagine things going back to normal and, being back to how they used to be. But, the world America was pretty damn good for a while in the sports world. And, we're all pretty comfortable with it and we're accustomed to it. I would hate if that environment was gone forever. And if they stuck with 7 innings for forever, that's a real risk in my mind, because I could see it being better for player health. I could see it, it would change the game a little bit, because do you need a closer if it's 7 innings? Like, do you need just a lessened bullpen? Like, do you switch the way that your roster is built? Like, do people lose their jobs because of that? I don't really know. It's a huge risk. But the counter to this, I guess, if you're ever going to try something crazy like this, now's the only time in history that you're just going to get that chance. So.
And that's where I feel like things are irresponsible. Like, I feel like while you should, if you can get a season in of some kind without dramatic change, and you can do it safely, you do it, or you offer the opportunity to be able to do it. But I feel like if you're going to go into this thing and change the game that we all love for the sake of changing it, and because you had an agenda prior to this thing happening, and let's face it, the Astros did this whole thing anyway, then it's so fucking irresponsible, because sure, you may catch on with another wave of interested new fans because this game goes quicker and for everything you just mentioned, Scott, but then you have all of these, kind of traditionalist baseball fans, guys who have been around for forever, appreciating the game the way that it's been played. That's too risky for me. Like, there's a lot of people that are going to be entirely too pissed off at that. And I just think baseball does such a bad job at everything that I do think they'll find a way to fuck that up.
Yeah, and that's one of my things is, I mean, you have the chance here, and I get that this would be a time to try one of these changes, but you have so many leagues, and I understand they've done it for some of the other things, but you have so many leagues, like the minor leagues, the independent league, the Arizona Fall League, or even try some of these in spring training if you want to try it, like where the games don't matter. Like, don't try to force it into a game that actually matters, where I think they're in danger of, they want to bring in more baseball, or bring in fans that aren't really baseball fans right now, but you're taking a chance, I think, in losing traditionalist fans and like the fans you have now more than you are going to bring in fans that aren't really fans. Because if a person thinks baseball is too long and too boring, just because you move it from 9 to 7 innings, I don't think you're going to gain that many more fans. Just that switch. And you see other leagues, like let's take college basketball, for example. They tried a lot of their changes in the NIT tournament last season when they moved the shot clock from 35 to 30 and they extended the three-point line. They tried the 4 quarters instead of 2 halves. So like that's where you take these chances instead of just throwing them into real games that mean something. Like, try it in some of these leagues that you can afford to try the changes.
Yeah, to me, if you want to try shit, try it in the minor leagues. Like, it's not going to get the exposure that even an NIT tournament would, because minor league baseball does not get that kind of exposure. And I mean, it's 148 games or so for minor league baseball. And I mean, how many of them are televised outside of their small local towns that they're in? But that is kind of where you need to try it for players' sake, for, so that people within the organization can see what may or may not transpire and kind of come from that, and what adjustments they may need to make in the way that they draft and prepare and everything. But fuck, man, I trust baseball, or those in power in baseball, so little. I can't even express.
As somebody that's statistically inclined to, like, I love looking at stats, I love looking at records, I love looking at like all of it all together. This season already is going to have an asterisk on it because I don't see any way they play the full 162, and if they do with 7 innings for each game, it's just the amount of at bats, the amount of numbers that are going to go down, like everything in my head, it's just going to like throw everything off. There's no way, anybody's going to have a chance at hitting, 70 home runs if you're taking away an at-bat a game. You know what I mean? Like, the whole 7 innings idea isn't something. I'd be okay if they tested it in the minors where, nobody really even looks at the stats unless you're waiting for them to come to the majors. But changing the entire, major league schedule to have 7-inning games isn't something I would ever want to see.
Me either. Go ahead, Joe.
I think it'll work in the sense that if they're trying to get double headers in, like, sure, fine for this season just because of everything going on. But one thing I'd also like to point out is that these are, unless I misread the Passan article, these are literally things they just kind of threw out the window. None of this is concrete. Like, it's not like,
of course,
we're going to see 7-inning doubleheaders or we're going to see an electronic strike zone. Like, I'm sure umpires will still be there calling the balls and strikes. I don't see a lot of these going through either, just because I do think, as you guys mentioned, there are a lot of traditionalists who will be turned off by what they're seeing, especially if they try to implement it beyond the season, if there even is a season. And I'm in that boat as well. I would, as I mentioned a few podcasts ago, I would hate seeing a shorter version of baseball that isn't a 9-inning game. I don't care about the length of baseball. I'm someone who could watch baseball all night, all the time. I think there's a beautiful thing about that. And I just think, as you guys mentioned, it's not fair to kind of change it due to these circumstances, regardless of how unprecedented everything is, because you don't even know if it's going to work, and you don't even know if it's going to bring in a new generation of fans, especially because you're not, as I believe you mentioned, Andrew, shortening a game 2 innings, that's like what, like another half hour?
Yeah,
You know, you're still
It's
you're
the
still
longest
looking
2 innings of the game.
well, you're still looking at like a 2.5+ hour game still. What are games averages, like what, 3 hours, I believe?
Right around
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
3
so
or
you're
4.
not saving that much time. I don't know. I just think it's stupid. For the season, I think it would work just because like it's either that or fuck it, no baseball at all. But God, if there's 7 inning games in 2021, I'd be disappointed.
Yeah, me too, 100%. That's a lot of missed opportunities to throw at Astros. You know, that's just sitting here now, just roughly. Say they play 100 games this year. If you make them all 7 innings, that's 200 innings or so that you're not getting to throw at them, plus the 62 lost games of 62 times 9, which whatever. That's a lot of missed opportunities to sit there and, you know, throw at the backs of Astros.
I gotta say, aside from MVP Harper, the one thing that I was really looking forward to seeing most this season was going to be the player reaction and everything going on with the Astros and how they were, you know, received not only in their home ballpark but on the road, just seeing everyone chew them up.
No bullshit. I was preparing to travel to at least 5 different away stadiums that were hosting the Astros just to see how things were going to kind
I
of
bet the Bronx would be a zoo.
It would be fucking awesome.
Can we start this rumor here that the Astros created the coronavirus to make everyone forget about their cheating
That's
scandal?
already been started.
Blame
Yeah.
Jose
them.
Altuve.
Yeah,
at
so
that.
It's been out there.
Oh, well, good. We'll just validate it then, because, you know, if enough people come up with an idea and say it on the internet, it's definitely true. So, I mean, you heard it here like second or third. The Astros did this. So we should all just wage war against them.
All right. So we're approaching the hour now, and I had kind of dangled this one out earlier. Andrew has been awesome, and he creates different brackets for us.
MVP.
So yeah, that's corny. But we will eventually be revisiting some of the brackets from before as well. You know, we kind of quickly went through our Final Four. However, we realized that you guys don't even know who were in each of the brackets that we had done already. So you didn't get to see the struggle that kind of played at each one of us as we picked our brackets down to our Final Four and eventual champions. So we will go through them as a group. So we are going to do the first round of this bracket as a group here. So we get to sit here and argue with each other. If anyone picks something that's absurd, someone's going to hear about it. But this one is, and we decided the kind of rule or approach that we're going to take with this one right before the podcast. So I know some of you guys have Google up already. So if you're listening to this show or when you're listening to it, you might as well bring up Google at this point too, because I'm sure most of you aren't going to know all of the uniforms. But that is what this bracket is going to be. So we have decided that Scott had mentioned earlier, go to the NCAA tournament, you were putting your best roster out there. So we are going to pick our very favorite uniform from each team throughout the duration of their history, even if they've moved since. We're going to pick whatever uniform that we want to represent that organization, and it's going to stack up against another one, and we're going to pick it down. So we're going to go through our first rounds right now. On the left side of this bracket, the Phillies were one of 2 teams to have a bye, which I appreciated. I don't remember which one of you guys had mentioned that, but the 2 classic pinstripes of the Phillies and Yankees both get byes in this. Well done, Andrew. I don't know if that was your intention, but well done. So we're going to start here. So Phillies take that round 1 against nothing. Next is the Mets and the Dodgers. And I love that these 2 teams were paired up, by the way, because it's not even close to a fair fight. And that's fantastic to me. So, Andrew, I'm going to defer to you for this one. Who is your take in this?
I'm taking the Dodgers in this.
Does anyone challenge this? And can you make a quality argument as to why?
I was gonna say the Mets, but I want to hear the Dodgers arguments.
How
Is everybody on the Dodgers side except me? Because
yes.
I like the Mets.
Yes.
What the fuck?
I like the Mets colors, man. I'm big on the
Me
blue and
too.
orange.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Oh,
All
this
right.
is gonna. You guys are gonna kill me for this, but blue and orange are mine and my girlfriend's favorite characters colors. So we always have a soft spot for Mets uniforms, and that was also
Well, that's fucking
Phillies
adorable.
Mets was our
I've heard enough
first.
from you.
Phillies and Mets were our first date together as well.
Oh God.
Everything
hold
in me
on.
growing up in
I-
Philadelphia is ingrained me to hate the Mets. So I'm very angry at all of you for this.
Oh, the Mets suck. I don't hate the Mets because the Mets are clowns. You know, it's not like the Nationals who just won a World Series and, you know, kicked the dirt, you know, as they were speeding past us in the division and, you know, onto the eventual playoff run they made. So the Mets, you know, they have their own problems too.
All right.
I only said that because I can't picture. You know, Dodgers have had such a classic uniform for so long.
Yes.
And like I appreciate that, but I love some of them. You know, some of the alternate jerseys that the Mets have had over the years. You know, the orange with the blue like side
Blue
to
trim.
it. Yeah, those are just good in my opinion.
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
obviously I'm in the minority here, but
Well, I don't really know that you are because we only have we have a one swing vote here, so we have 3 people voting for the Dodgers. If there was a 6th on here, I have to assume at this point that they're going to be wrong too and also voting for the Mets. But you mentioned the word kind of classic, and I tend to lean that way personally. For
interesting.
most uniforms, I love clean looks. Like we'll get to it eventually. What my all-time favorite uniform is, and it's not in this particular bracket right now. Or in this side of the bracket that I believe, but like those old school, like the Brooklyn, uniforms. I love the gray with that like deep, like royal maroon or royal blue. It's just so fucking sharp. I don't understand how anyone can like. I don't know, man. Fuck the Mets.
I wasn't taking my personal vendetta out on the Mets in terms of uniforms. I mean, in that sense, I mean, most of my things are wrong if we're going against, our personal, what we wouldn't want to see.
No. This is
We'll get to that.
specifically uniforms. This isn't like technically
that's what I mean.
tied towards organizations. Like I just don't. I've always resented the Mets for like ever since I want to say like the mid like 2000s, early to mid 2000s when they introduced a pinstripe uniform of their own. That really pissed me off.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just didn't ever look right. I never mind pinstripe pants with a solid jersey. I actually think that looks fairly sharp at times. But I just never felt like it looked right with the Mets. I feel like everything about that organization, their stadium, like everything just looks cheap. It's weird. It just looks like the old statue in Marlin Stadium. Like their whole color scheme, it just looks fucking weird. But all right, so we are at 3 people and 2 people. Does anyone have anything to say in favor of the Mets right now that we can sit here and make a different argument? Or are we taking Dodgers in round 1?
Go Mets.
Go Mets.
Oh.
Oh, I can't. Those words you just said on
This is a Phillies podcast.
Go
Oh,
Mets
God.
uniforms.
All right, I'm switching sides just from that statement. Dodgers.
Oh, man.
I will die on this island.
All right. Well,
And honestly,
apparently we
fuck
will.
the Dodgers more. At least they're good. They trample the Phillies. At least the
We're not
Mets,
talking about the organization. We're talking about the damn uniforms.
fuck the Dodgers.
Jesus, man. They also have like the matte helmets. They're just sharp. Everything about them sharp.
Yeah.
All right.
Next.
Anyway, next
the
in this
Dodgers.
bracket are oh God, it is the Gabe Kapler now led Giants and the uniform that we spoke about earlier in the Brewers. So Scott, I'm going to defer to you on this one. Who do you take out of the Giants and Brewers?
It's a tough first round matchup because I actually think the Giants uniform is pretty clean, but the old school Brewers uniforms with the royal blue and the yellow in them and the
Pitchfork.
MB. Oh yeah, it's awesome. So I'm going Brewers all the way here.
You're taking Brewers. All right. So for you guys, I assume a handful of you don't know the uniform that Scott and I are talking about. So if you haven't Googled it yet, Google it. Who are we taking? Does anyone challenge that Brewers take? I myself would be going with the Giants. This was also a really, really hard first round matchup. So Andrew, nice job here. Probably accidentally, but nice job.
Yeah, I will admit it was accidentally, but no, I love both these teams' uniforms as well. This was a really tough one, but I'm gonna lean Brewers in this one.
You're
I'm
leaning
Brewers
Brewers
as well.
Because I
I'm
think
also Brewers.
All right. So I stood alone on my Giants. This is like one of the few like cream jerseys that I'm like 100% in love with. I do love their older uniforms, which are basically exactly the same as they are now. But
Plus their
so that
logo
one's-
is awesome. The
it's
MD,
so awesome.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so this one goes to the Brewers. I can't argue, and I think I wouldn't have been mad either way on this one, so I'm not going to put my arguing chips into this particular matchup. So the next one is the Cardinals and the Braves. So, Biscuit, I'm going to go to you here since you seem to love division uniforms.
I'm pulling up the Braves uniform now. I'm going to go with Cardinals, though, just because I think the red is sharp. And fuck the Braves.
Jesus Christ, man. I think you're missing the point here.
You know, let me pull up the Cardinals home uniform real fast.
Yeah, I'm on Team Cardinals too. I feel like the Braves don't have
Oh
it.
yeah, and they got the powder blues too, don't they? The old
That's what I
powder
was
blues.
waiting on.
They're
Something.
That's what I was going to
Ooh.
bring up too. Powder
Oh, I'm
blues
looking
are
at the
awesome.
powder blues right now, and I'm getting all excited. Yeah, Cardinals.
Keep it in your pants, Biscuit.
I will. Hey, dude, I'm a sucker. I am a sucker for powder blues.
They're
Like,
great.
If
Me
they
too,
turned
dude.
around and said, you know, we're going back to the powder blues full time, I'd be a-okay, dude. I think it is such a look. I love retro baseball looks.
Same. All right, so does anyone challenge that one and take the Braves? That is the accurate response.
Fuck the Braves.
All right. Jesus Christ, man. All right, so the next one we have here is all right, this is an interesting one. I like this. So the Rockies and the Marlins. So each have had several different looks and cuts to their uniform, even just in the last, I mean, really, they're both relatively new organizations. So I'm going to go to, let's see, who hasn't started one? I'm going to go with Sean.
Ooh, okay. So I looked up both of these like kind of retro ones. This one was kind of hard for me, but when I pulled up the Rockies, there was a picture of Larry Walker in it had like, it was like, it didn't say the Rockies on the front, it just had the mountains, and they were like kind of like purple, like it was black, but he had like the entire bottom was the Rocky Mountains, like going up to like the middle of his chest. And I saw that, and that's like a top 5 jersey that I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know how I've never seen it before, but just because of that picture, I'm going with the Rockies.
Who's clapping right now?
I was cracking my knuckles.
Oh, I thought someone was slow clapping for that jersey. I was like, wow, didn't expect that kind of a reaction to that jersey, but Jesus Christ, here we are. Is anyone challenging that one? Anyone want to go with the multiple different uniforms that we've seen over the Marlins short history?
I'm going Rockies.
I will say this about their newer uniforms. I think it's got like too much going on with the orange and, you know, blue and black. I kind of prefer their older Florida Marlins throwback jerseys, but I do like the Rockies purple. I'm looking at that right now, and it looks sharp. I also kind of like their design logo more than the Marlins. I think, you know, Fisher bland, and I'm gonna go with the Rockies.
I like the Marlins uniforms that they won the World Series in.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was gonna say the same thing.
I like those, and I think it's got a weird nostalgia factor. My brother had one of those hats growing up, and he always wore it, and I was super jealous that I didn't think to get one first. So I'm rocking with the Marlins.
Wow. All right. Jesus. Is anyone shifting over to the Marlins there on that one or no?
I'm not. I'm sticking with the Rockies. I just think I think the
Yeah,
Marlins
the
do
Rockies
look it
too.
hurts them too much.
It does, yeah. They're trash.
Fair.
I find that the Rockies are another one of the few organizations who pull off pinstripes. So I love Colorado's uniform. And like Biscuit said, purple's such an underutilized color in sports. And when it looks good, it looks great. And it looks great in Colorado.
Yeah.
All right, so then we're going to go to the Pirates and the Nationals. So for the Nationals, you can also use the Expos.
Ooh.
So I'm going to go to the creator of the bracket here, who probably didn't think Expos also. But go for it.
I'm going with the Expos and Nationals over the Pirates in this one. I like the old Expos design as well, and I also really like the Nationals uniform with the blue top. They got the W on the left side.
The
flag.
newer ones?
Yeah, the newer National look. I like those as well. They
look like every AAU team that's ever played baseball.
Yeah, I don't like
There's
their newer
nothing
uniforms.
special about those.
No, nothing special about the Nationals team in general.
You just said you like the jerseys.
No,
Lawyer.
no.
That was me. That was me.
That was me.
Oh, my bad. I forgot how I threw the question too.
I had this matchup like crossed out, and I just wrote Expos on top of it from the beginning of the show. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right, so you're taking Expos.
I'm gonna defend Andrew a little bit here too and hop on his side. You know, the Expos jerseys are awesome, so I would pick that first. But I kind of like the new Nationals jerseys with the W on the left side or the blue top and the gray pants. I'm in favor.
Why does it remind you of every high school kid you struck out and stared down walking back into the dugout with your 5'6" frame?
Yeah, I mean that would be like 4 people. So yeah.
All right. All right. Well, fond memory. So it's singular. This is one game, one outing. No one's going with the Pirates here. No one likes the old school Pirate stuff.
I'm not a black and yellow guy.
Yeah.
Not a black and yellow guy. Jesus Christ. So I'm gonna go with the Expos because I love the Expos uniforms. I have such fond memories growing up watching that team for a lot of time.
They got the powder blue going on.
I know, man. It was sharp. I don't know. I always felt like their uniform was fairly unique at a time where
Wait until they come back to baseball. That's
take over the Rays.
Yeah,
It's not such a pain in the dick.
Expansion. They're not taking over. The Rays, there's no way the Rays are getting the okay to move to Montreal. Montreal's going to have its own
No, but didn't you
team.
hear that?
They want to. They're not going to.
They want to split.
Yeah, I heard that.
They want to play 81 or half the season
Oh my
in Tampa
gosh, that proposal.
and half the season in
It was
Montreal.
ridiculous. It's not going to get okayed, and
Of course not. But who floated that idea out there? That's fucked. Game 7 of a World Series, because it's a brilliantly run organization for the most part. Who gets the fucking game? Like, what? That's insane.
yeah.
Anyway, all right. So on this one, we are taking. Where are we at here? No one's a black and yellow guy. No one's going Pirates here.
Nope.
Oh.
You guys all suck. All right. Expos it is, since no one's picking the Nationals except for Scott and his weird high school memory.
and Andrew, thank you very much. Yeah.
Right, and Andrew.
Yeah. 2/3 of the TJs, one of us boys are on the Nationals here.
There you go.
Yeah, all right. This is an interesting one, specifically because I've never seen brown in a uniform used so regularly. But Padres and the Reds. I'm going to go to Biscuit for this one.
I'm looking at some Padres throwbacks, and they kind of had the black and yellow thing going on, so I'm going to say nay on that. I do like the Padres' newer uniforms, but I'm going to go with the Reds here just because I'm looking at their throwbacks, and they're pretty sharp. I like the red and white. I like that it's a little different from the, typical pinstripes. So I'm going to go with Reds.
Reds?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody challenging that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know.
Awesome. Go for it.
I love the Padres, like the retro Padres brown and yellow. I hate brown and yellow as a color scheme, but man, it looked so good on, the old Padres uniforms. Something about it just like popped.
Yes.
And other than, you would say the Reds have a classic look. They have a kind of like a clean uniform. They always have. They do have nice uniforms, but
they kept the vest too long. That really pissed me off. So that's why I'm out on the Reds.
Yeah, they did.
So yeah, I'm Team Padres here.
I'm with you, man. So where are we at on this one? I stopped keeping count. I was Googling jerseys as we sit. So where were we at on that?
I
Who
was
had Padres?
Reds.
How many Reds do we have?
We have 2 Padres, 1 Reds, and that means Scott didn't give an answer yet.
All right. Go
So-
for it, TJs.
I'm gonna go with the Padres here as well.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going with the Padres too, but to draw the parallel to the NCAA tournament, I'm going to say this was like a 30-27 game when everyone lost, including the fans, because I don't really like either of these jerseys that much.
I also don't like either of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going Padres here. Sorry, Biscuit.
Oh no.
Yeah, right. Clearly will not advance to the next round. All right, and the last one on the left side of the bracket here is the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. I don't even think this is a fair fight, but we're going to give it a talk anyway. I'm going to go to Scott first for this one. Scott, go ahead.
Cubs, next question.
That's where we're at. Is anyone choosing any of the ridiculous? The Diamondbacks are like the Buccaneers in football.
Man,
Like,
the Randy Johnson era Diamondbacks
yeah.
uniforms, the
I'm on-
purple and green.
I'm with that. I'm going Diamondbacks on this one.
Oh,
you guys are going
it's-
purple, neon green, and black vests.
Oh, it looked so good on Randy Johnson. Come on.
Everything looked good on Randy Johnson. Did you see
Yeah.
that flow?
Yeah, when you have a
Hmm.
mullet like that, you always look good. Like,
Yes.
But come on.
I'm with the Cubs group here. Just looking at the Diamondbacks uniform, especially their like kind of like red and black get up. It kind of reminds me of the Marlins, where it feels like they're trying to like be different, and it kind of just looks like it has a little bit too much going on. So I'm gonna go
Yes.
with the Cubs.
Man, I even like their uniforms now, like with like the teal trim. Like I like that now better than any of the Cubs uniforms. Screw the Cubs.
Why is it?
And the current gray the
God.
Diamondbacks have as well.
Look, the current, I actually do kind of dig the gray, the away uniforms that they have right now. I do think they're pretty sharp. But the fact that you got, I don't get it, man. I'm looking at it again right now. I'm watching a GIF of him throw. I still think it looked like shit.
Oh, man,
dude, I think we
I
just had a
really liked it.
16-1 upset right there. That was
Mhm.
crazy.
I really like the Diamondbacks, the old ones. I don't know.
All right, so we got, is it 2 Diamondbacks?
Yeah, I think it's 2 Diamondbacks, 3 Cubs.
Oof,
Ooh, wow.
man.
All right.
All right. I just wrote the Cubs in probably the neatest handwriting that I've written any other name in. So I was incredibly confident in that one.
Mm-hmm.
That was a tight one though. All right, so we're already at an hour and 15. So it's up to you guys. Do you guys want to do the right side of the bracket, or do you want to save that for the next pod?
You can move a little faster through it, maybe.
All right, and we'll do the rest of this round, and we'll go a little quicker on it. Yankees, as we mentioned earlier, got the first round bye because their uniforms are fantastic. The history behind it's wonderful. The next one, I love this matchup. So again, for your quality work here, Andrew, I'm going to send it to you. Red Sox and Twins.
I'm going Twins on this one. I like their
Yeah, buddy.
the whole collection of uniforms. I think the pinstripes work. I think they got that old school powder blue as well, and even the current.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a good mix in general.
Is anyone taking Boston?
Fuck Boston.
God damn it, Biscuit.
It hurts me a little bit to take the Twins here because I think the Red Sox hat is real classic.
I do like the Red Sox hat.
But I think the Twins jerseys are awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, another organization, Andrew, I think it was you that mentioned it, pull off pinstripes well. Few teams do, but they do. All right. I love this. Rays and Rangers. So you can go with the Rays or the Devil Rays. Exercising their demons. If you list or watched the 2008 World Series DVD, Carl Crawford said that. Hilarious. I will go to Scott for this one.
I'm going with the new Rays uniforms. I really like them a lot. Hats are pretty sweet. I got a good image in my head of David Price, throwing with his long ass arms and extended ass legs and shit. Yeah, I'm going Rays.
All right. I like it. You're going Rays. Anyone going a different direction there? Anyone taking the Rangers?
I like the Rangers uniforms.
Which one?
I'm looking at I believe it's their 2020 home and away jerseys right now. I think it's their white one, so I'm going to assume it's their home one. I think it looks very clean. I'm not a big fan of jerseys that are just one solidified color. Usually, the Diamondbacks one and the Miami Marlins one, but I think it works for this team. I believe I'm looking at a picture of Joey Gallo in one. He looks
think of
pretty sharp.
all uniforms, I would have. This is a terrible fucking uniform. Like, of the clean look, and I'm a fan of the clean look, this is an awful uniform.
Yeah, I agree with that. And they unveiled the
100%.
and they came out with that powder blue uniform. I think they're one of the few teams that can't pull off the powder blue.
The powder blue doesn't look good, but I think their typical home and away ones aren't bad compared to other teams that have like one solidified, top color and then the white pants.
The Rays just straight white, straight home uniform, I think is one of the best in baseball right now.
I love
how clean it is, like what you said about David Price, like that uniform right now, it's clean, it's good.
Yeah, everything about the Rays organization, their uniforms, play. It's just that's an easy team to like. It's an easy team to watch. It's gonna suck when they're in Montreal too. All right, so we're going Rays here, except for Biscuits because he's wrong. Sean, I'm gonna go to you for this one. All right, Angels and Blue Jays.
This is the only one I didn't actually have a winner picked because I'm really in between both of them. But I think I'm going to go with the Angels because of their current uniforms.
You like
as much
the current
as I
Halos?
Yeah, as much as I like the Blue Jays light blue that they have, I love that color. I'm going to have to stick with the Angels here. I don't know. Mike Trout looks good in that uniform.
Yeah, my missus tends to agree.
I'm going Blue Jays.
Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is another one of those ones where, like, if you want like a really well done newer uniform, it's easy to go with the Angels. But if you want a really cool classic uniform, it's really easy to go with the Blue Jays. This is a tough matchup. I don't think you're going to go wrong either way. Scott and Andrew, who do you guys have?
I like them both. I think because of their old uniform though, I really like the Angels' old uniform. I'm going Angels.
Dude,
Oh,
I'm
nice.
right in line with you there, Andrew. I'm thinking about Angels in the outfield and the jerseys they have on in that. I love the hats. I love the logo. Let's go Angels.
All right. Angels takes that one. All right. This is the matchup that I enjoy. White Sox and the Athletics. And if you're going against my direction, just know that this is your last podcast you'll be on with us.
Oh, God.
So best of luck to the first person who's going, which is Biscuit.
Ooh.
I'm going to say Athletics because the White Sox one kind of reminds me of the Yankees one. I also kind of like that. I think green's one of those colors that no one really uses it in baseball. So it's kind of distinct just to them. I'm not a fan of the yellow uniform. That's one of my least favorite ones, but I think, just the white with the green kind of tints to it at certain points of the, jersey, like on the cap and stuff and on the front where the name's on the uniform. I don't think it's bad. I'm going to go with Athletics.
Going with the Athletics. All right, Scott, who do you have?
I'm going.
Was I
I'm
wrong?
Is your mic still active? That I guess that'll tell you if you're right or wrong, right? Shane might have just kicked you off immediately.
He's still here.
There you go. So
just
I'm
waiting to
going
see
with
how many of you I drop at the same time.
I'm going with the Athletics. I think the black hat with the green A on it is the best hat in baseball. So I'm going with them.
Black hat.
Yeah, they have a black hat.
Oh,
with
I know what it
a
is.
Green A on it.
I'm
Yeah,
just
it's very, very good.
shocked that's where you went with.
Uh-oh.
Okay. All right. Sean or Andrew, either one of you guys, go ahead next.
Go ahead, AJ.
I'll take. I want to take the White Sox on this one. I'm gonna go the other direction.
Get the fuck off the show.
I knew
Jesus. Oh.
The
Again,
White Sox ones
lasted.
are ugly.
They're not ugly. They're great uniforms. This is another excellent
They're
first round
classic,
matchup.
Yeah.
I love the A's too. I just think as a whole, like franchise wise, I think the White Sox have the better full collection of uniforms just from back then with even the logo with the hitter there, and it just says Sox on it. And again, I like the all black with just their logo on the left side, and I think the collection wise, White Sox wins.
But if you picked one jersey to win one matchup, one uniform set, which White Sox one takes it?
I think I'm going the all black one with the white pants they wear, or the gray pants, either one. I think that uniform is really good.
Huh.
I'd like to interject on this one. The ones, I forget, they might be like an alternate jersey that they had this year, but the ones that are like striped, like they have black and white going horizontal, like the thicker stripes. Am I making sense? Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they look like the old Houston.
A little bit, yeah, but like in black and white. When they wore those, I was kind of taken a little back, and I hate the green and yellow together. I'm not a big fan of it.
Damn it, man.
So I'm White Sox too.
I'm so glad to be the deciding vote here, and I'm sorry that we had to lose 2 hosts. But I fucking love the all white athletics uniform with the white belt and the white cleats, and the only color being in that logo and the hat, and it's like the perfect balance of, because they have like just a slightly thicker trim of yellow outside the green, which is just, everything just pops, everything just looks fucking great, and they have these awesome uniforms playing in this dog shit ballpark. It's fucking great. It's the Athletics. I'm sorry you guys are wrong. It was really good to have you on the show. Scott, you're gonna have to start making brackets. Biscuits, we're gonna have to hear more about your lady. She's gonna have to start playing softball.
I can still make brackets. I just can't be on the show.
That's fair.
And maybe you guys don't open your mail for a couple days too. I think Shane may be sending a steaming bag of dog shit to both of you. So,
in all fairness, that was probably one of the toughest first round matchups. Like, I ordinarily wouldn't be overly angry at anybody's take on a uniform. I just happen to absolutely love the Athletics all whites. I just think it's awesome. But those White Sox, like almost every uniform that the White Sox have had in their entire existence is pretty fucking sharp. But if you had to pick one uniform, the correct answer is the Athletics. All right. This shouldn't even be a fucking conversation, but the Orioles and the Mariners. So I'm going to go to Sean on this one, see if he can redeem himself.
Orioles.
For fuck's sake. What the shit, man? If you wanted to use teal ever, it's this one. Like, it's just right there. It's on a tee for you.
I don't like the it's like a weird blue, man. I don't know. I couldn't think of like a specific, Mariners, like. You
couldn't think of the kid?
Well, I know. I'm thinking like the best Mariners jerseys, obviously, Griffey, like when the period that he wore it. But I think the Orioles have had some really good uniforms in their time.
Oh my God! Does anyone shock me? Is anyone else taking the fucking Orioles?
No, I'm going Mariners.
Mariners.
Yeah, I'm going Mariners too, but I
Sean,
really
I'm
like
buying
the
you a
Orioles.
Griffey jersey. Jesus Christ! Either that or an Ichiro jersey. You fucking choose whichever one you like.
Ooh, I was going to say Ichiro. I'm looking at Ichiro right now.
You're going to take the kid. That's the accurate jersey. All right, putting this one. I can't believe you went the fucking Orioles. I'm so angry at that. I thought that was on a tee. All right. We got Royals and Tigers. We should also, by the way, we're doing a terrible job of describing any of the uniforms that people may not know. I just realized that. If you're listening to this show, I assume that you guys all know what uniforms we're just kind of talking about at this point. So I think we're going to have to start like posting some of our favorite uniforms to all of our Twitters that we all rarely use, with the exception of Andrew. But last two here on this one, we have the Royals and Tigers. This is another really fucking hard first round matchup for me, so I will go last on it. I'm going to shift this one over to Scott.
I am going to go with the Royals here. I think the royal blue hat matched with the gray jerseys and the basic Kansas City across is pretty sweet.
Also, World
Also,
Series uniforms.
Yeah, those are awesome. Also, Bo Jackson in the powder blues.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's just a good look. Like,
he's a fucking gladiator.
Biscuit, tell me to keep it in my pants right now because I'm excited just thinking about it. Like,
oh my God. Yeah, well, if I was going Royals, it would be because of the Bo Jackson uniform. But I'm still torn. I don't know. I'm gonna have to be a deciding vote in this one. We'll see. I'm gonna go to Andrew on this one now. Royals Tigers.
I'm gonna go Royals on this one. I think Bo Jackson's uniforms are too good.
Is it the fact that it's Bo Jackson in the uniform, or is it the uniform itself? I can't decide.
It's probably more Bo Jackson, if we're being honest.
All right, that's fair. I respect the honesty.
But no, I think today's even today's uniforms, they go Royals over Tigers. I do like the Tigers all white though.
If Olivia Munn was wearing the uniform, which one would it be? See, these are the things I don't know.
I would vote against it because I want her to take the uniform off. Huh? See what I did there?
That was actually very sharp. A little rapey, but sharp.
I'd like to throw out my hot take on this one. I know Shane's gonna, berate me like he always does, but my take on the Royals baby blue is it's the best baby blue. There is no better baby blue than the Royals.
I'm not going to berate you for that at all.
I just think it's better than Philly's a close second, but beyond that, it's like everything. Nothing comes close to the Royals. Like,
the slow clap is awesome.
I'm like clicking. Sorry.
No, just go with it. Say it's a slow clap.
I'm a very fidgety person. I'm like clicking a pen. Like,
no worries.
I too am going with the Royals as well.
Your same uniform or different version of that uniform?
No, same uniform. Same. Powder blues. I don't know if I would say it's as great as my Phillies, but it's certainly sharp and definitely one of the more classier uniforms in all of the baseball eras.
Yeah, it's one of the best uniforms in all of sports. I do think that, and Scott, I don't remember if we did this or if we had done it even with Andrew on the show either, but like the 90s, like the late 80s, early 90s NBA uniforms were so hilariously bad that they're good. We should probably have an NBA show specifically dedicated to that at some point if we haven't already. I'm going with the Tigers, by the way, for what it's worth. I've been battling back and forth. I just fucking similar to the Giants. Like there's just something super, super classic about that D. Nice. Look you laughing over there, you fucking child. Oh, fuck. Well, that's why I'm taking the Tigers.
As soon as I heard someone snicker, I was like, I'm not the only one who thought of it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. Tigers and their D. They go down. It's hilarious. Last one here. Damn, this is another really good first round matchup here. Indians and Astros for the final one here, and I'm going to go to Andrew, creator of the bracket. Andrew, who do you got?
Yeah, this is a really tough one. I'm going to lean Indians because I know unfortunately they're taking it off the uniforms, but since we're going by best uniform, I do like the with their logo on it, the chief symbol on it. I think that's a really good touch to it, and even on the hats, I think it is a good look for the Indians team as a whole. But so I'm gonna go Indians on it with those uniforms. Back like the Jim Thome time on the Indians. I think those were a very clean look. But like I said, unfortunately they are getting rid of that logo.
Because this world's too sensitive, man. Didn't fucking offend anyone. All right. I think it's a quality choice, by the way. That was such an awesome uniform. I'm gonna go to Sean next. Sean, what do you got on this take?
Astros.
Which version?
The retro, the
Nolan Ryan ones.
Yeah. They look so good.
Is that the one with it's like red, orange, yellow, and it's got the star on the side?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that one.
Wow.
I'm looking because that's the one I'm looking at right now, and I'm just like, you look like the sun, like. You look like a bright shooting star. It just doesn't look appealing.
Well, you're wrong, Biscuit, but it's a great jersey with excellent history and one of the best pitchers to ever pitch in the game for it. Not unlike the Bo Jackson thing. Not as fucking gladiator-esque as Jackson, obviously, but still pretty fucking good. Scott, who do you got on this one?
I'm going with the Indians. I very much like I like the old logo, but I'm just kind of a sucker for the blue hat transposed with like gray pants or gray in the uniform. I think it looks great. But that old school logo is awesome. So I'm riding with the Indians.
Nice. You didn't take the Mets earlier, right?
God, no.
Just making sure. I just want to
Don't
make
put
sure you're
words in
being
my mouth,
consistent.
Shane.
Just want to make sure you're being consistent with your
Yeah.
blue and gray. That's all I'm asking. All right. And then last over there, Biscuit.
I'm going to take the Astros, even though I just clowned their, throwbacks.
That's fine. Which uniform are you taking?
I like their newer ones. I like the ones they kind of have now.
The ones with wires inside of them.
I was about to say that.
The ones, that are accustomed to being tapped, so you could feel little buzzers when certain pitches are coming. No, I just think it's a clean uniform. Doesn't have too much going on. Doesn't try to be anything too, vastly over the top. I'm not a fan of the more orange uniforms. And I don't really care for the Indians design either. I never thought there was anything too special about that.
Really? I love the Indians' old uniforms.
The major league uniforms are their best ones.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What an awesome baseball series of movies, too. Well, first one. I'm going to go with the Astros. I'm going to go with the third different Astros uniform used in this argument. I'm going to go with one with Biggio, Bagwell. In that era, with the maroon top with the star. And I have a different reason as to why I'm going with it, but I played on I don't know, you're 8, 9 years old and an all-star team, and that was our fucking uniform. And that was some of the best baseball memories I've ever had. And that's just what I associate that look with, was just my first time having a ton of fun on a baseball field. So for me, and Craig Biggio is one of my favorite players to ever play the game. So to me, that was there. So I'm going to take the Astros. That puts Astros up 3-2 on that one with 3 different uniforms. So Astros getting a lot of love for, setting the world on fire with this fucking virus, but great uniforms whilst doing it. So that is the first round here. You stuck with us for, Jesus Christ, an hour and 36 minutes now. And we only went 2 topics. We had a lot of shit to talk about with Scott's awful takes in the first half. And then
you just hate America, Shane. That's fine. I guess you can admit that to the fans at home. So
I played your tune for you in support of America. But the second half, we found out who has good taste and who does not have good taste in terms of uniforms. I also have to buy a jersey for someone that I already forget who.
Wow.
Who am I buying?
Come on.
All right, never mind. Sean, it's you. I have to buy either a Randy Johnson jersey, a Kid jersey, or an Ichiro jersey for him.
I would take a Randy Johnson jersey. I would love that.
Yeah, it's a solid jersey. So before the old house burned down, that's baseball jerseys were the only jerseys I'd ever wear. I had so fucking many baseball jerseys. My Randy Johnson one from there was one of my favorites. I had the gray from that time period. It was just awesome. But all right, so we will come back with the second round on the next show of this one. And again, we will get back to all the brackets that we had done in the past and see if we can't, kind of fix some people. I think Rob has some of the worst takes I've ever heard in my life in those other brackets that we've done so far. Choosing Ty Kelly over Mike Franco is fucking moronic. I hate Franco too, but dear God, what a bad take. So we'll get to berate him a little bit. You guys will probably berate me for some of my picks as well. It'll be fun. It'll be a good time. But we will be back in a few days with another one. Before we head out, want to make sure to remind everyone, as always, support your local businesses wherever you are currently living, wherever you're around. Don't order shitty pizza from Domino's. Don't order shitty pizza from Papa John's. Don't go to fucking fast food restaurants. go to a local pub that's open. They're only open from like 4 to 9 most places, and they need your business. And if you're local to us, to our studio, which I have to record out of alone because of fucking quarantine, that's lovely. You could go to Just Food. It is in Buckingham Green in Bucks County, PA. It's also at Dalval College. And they're, I guess it's like a mart down there. I don't know. Rob goes to that location because it's right near his house. But visit our guy, Asian Rob. It's 215-794-3663. Treat yourself. Take it home. And then be sure to interact with us on Twitter. So if you guys have any decent stories or baseball takes or anything you want to hear on the pod, make sure you reach out to us on Twitter. Most of our DMs are open at this point as well. So you can send in things over there. Our email is, so someone had asked for this the other day. It is anypodcastteam@gmail.com. I will even start looking at it again. Ever since we took the website down, I had not been looking at it, but I will open it once more. And then where can we find everyone on Twitter at this point? I'm going to start with Andrew, since you gave us the bracket and you are our most active. We're also going to occasionally talk some of your polls, which always amuse me. Andrew, where can the people get you on Twitter?
AJ_Santangelo, and I can find some of the closest polls if you want me to.
Yeah, man. We got nothing but time at this point. We're churning out nearly 2-hour podcasts. This is wild. I still have like 35 minutes of Baby Driver to watch right now, and I forgot about it until this very moment. But all right, so then I got Andrew Shaw. Jesus Christ. Sean, there we go. Where can we find you on Twitter?
At SeanNew27, SeanNew27, and make sure you follow the podcast Twitter, our specific PTBNL podcast Twitter that I haven't looked at in a couple days, at ANYP Phillies, until we get a new name.
And just so the people can know, what ridiculous level are you now on MLB The Show?
I am a silver 26 or 7, which is like prestige 1. Oh. 27.
It's pretty ridiculous. All right, Biscuit. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Broseph Biscuit on Twitter. Both B's are capitalized.
All right, and what level are you currently in the show?
Probably a lower level.
No shit.
I don't really check my rank or stuff like that. I kind of just play my little franchise.
All right, well, how's your little franchise doing?
I actually just restarted. I do weird shit with my franchise. So there's times that I'll like actually play games. Other times I'll just sim entire seasons and just make trades and stuff like that. Currently, I actually just, got to June. I caught up Alec Boehm. He had a 2-hit.
That long?
Right.
Well, I simmed to June.
Oh, man.
And I
He
brought
started
up
day one for me. He's hitting 444. I'm only 4 games into my season, but still.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, I gotta say this, like, that's really how I'm getting my baseball fix right now. Obviously, if there was a case where I didn't have the show, I'd be really jonesing. I'm starting to really let my emotions go when I'm playing the show. The other night, I don't know if I told you guys about this, but before I started my new franchise, I was playing a game, and I actually pitched a no-hitter with Aaron Nola against the Dodgers. My only base runners were a walk and an error at one point, but it was one of my most, like I was screaming at my TV when things weren't going my way. And my pitch count was like astronomically high. Like, I think I threw about 130 pitches with him before the game ended. And like, that is like way too many pitches. I've never let someone stay in the game for that long, but it all went well. I literally like screamed yes, and I'm pretty sure we did a podcast like right after I finished that game. So I definitely got my baseball. Honestly, because like I think my girlfriend was mad because I was letting out such emotion that I was like screaming and yelling, and
Joe, I've never known you to be this way.
Oh yeah, dude, I play with emotion. Let the kids play. Let the biscuit play.
You're an idiot.
That's what I'm going to tell her when I put
you off, man. Scott, where are we at with you? Where can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me at spnovic. This was a fun one, guys. Thanks for having me on here. It just kind of proves more that me and Andrew should just design jerseys together, because we just agree with all color schemes and how everything looks.
I have one last question for Scott and for Joe. So Andrew has a picture of him at spring training as his Skype photo. Sean's wearing a Phillies jersey next to an attractive female that I have to assume is his current girlfriend. Otherwise, that's a problem. I am doing what I do with all of the perfect games and no-hitters that I watch. I am holding my dog in the air for Cole Hamels' final out in my picture, so I am witnessing Phillies history in mine. Scott, you have nothing, and Biscuit, you have nothing. Why?
I'm lazy.
What,
Do you not have attractive females that you can Photoshop into your photos? Do you not have a dog that you want to hold up?
The most
awkwardly
attractive
that's
female in
totally-
my life is my beautiful girlfriend, and she would be wonderful to grace the cover of my Twitter profile picture.
All right, well,
I'm
throw
just
in the Phillies
lazy.
jersey, and there you are.
We have some spring training, some cute spring training pics that I was thinking about posting
Not on Twitter, on Skype.
on Skype.
That's what I'm talking about. I just need to know that we're all on the same page here, that this is a Phillies podcast. And Scott,
I probably should have one on there because I use my Skype for business quite a bit. So I talk to a bunch of international vendors and stuff on there all the time, and they all have the most hilariously inappropriate business pictures. So I should probably throw up me in a shirt and tie or
you should actually just throw a
something like
picture
that.
of Coy Detmer's neck beard and say cheers. Like
I might
Coy
just go
Detmer's-
with the full neck beard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Coy Detmer's face, just his hair just goes straight from his chin straight down in a line from his chest, probably down to his junk. Like that's pretty much where he's at. I imagine that's probably where you're at right now.
Yeah.
Full
All right.
quarantine.
Well, I'm doing a photo shoot after this tonight, so my night's not packed. Tune in.
Jesus.
I'll send it over later.
You're an idiot. All right. You guys can find me on Twitter. It's at Shane_Mead. You can find the podcast. All of the released episodes go through this channel first. It is at AMY Podcast, and then they get retweeted from our actual podcast account that Sean gave you guys earlier. Thank you guys for listening for another lengthy episode. One of these days, we will actually get them down to a time that we promise you guys. We'll even title the podcast eventually. It won't just always forever be the PTBNL, or it will. We don't know. But for right now, we're going to sign off. For Andrew, for Scott, for Sean, and for Biscuit, I am Shane, the Always Next Year Podcast Network.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.